Welcome to this week's episode of Retrotopia, where this week, an American guy and a British guy will talk about retro video games. And Alan, what video game are we talking about this week?
Well, Sam, we are talking about a video game that is notoriously tough and notoriously unforgiving, so much so that we are actually a man down because of it. So, yeah, he's actually, Brian was last seen going into Dracula's castle, and he's not come out yet. So, good luck, buddy. There's meat in the walls, and we're not coming in after you. It's Castlevania Rondo of Blood.
Ooh, that roll of the R, man.
All for you, baby.
Oh, man. So basically we found Maria Renard, but we did not find Brian.
No, and at this point, like, he's fucked, you know. Cause I mean, are you going to go in there after him?
No, they're probably going to turn him into one of those little flea dudes.
Oh, no. That is no kind of fate for anyone. Godspeed, Brian.
Godspeed.
Good luck to you.
Well, thanks everyone for listening, and we want to just quick off the top mention our socials, which are on our link tree, which will give you the one link, and then we'll move on. It's linktree, linktr.ee/Retrotopia. You can find our social media accounts as well as our free Discord where you can join in the conversation. So we'd love to have you there. Before we get started, we have our letter section, which we call the 8-Bit Banter Box, and you can access this by joining our Discord. And this week we have one comment. So, Alan, I'm going to give you this one, if you want to read that one.
Well, this comes from the superhero himself, Unbuckled Cape, from the Unbuckled Comics podcast. He says, Alan, that's me, I'll get my nighttime sock ready.
Gross.
Cape, I sure hope that sock is clean.
You know it's not.
you could get a nasty infection down there. Yeah, maybe wash it first, please.
Well, that was our only comment for this week. So, at least for the banter box,
it's a good bit of banter.
Yeah, that was a good one. So Alan, it's been a couple weeks since you've been on the show. So what have you been up to these last few weeks, and what have you been playing?
That's right. I think it was GoldenEye last time.
Yeah.
So, you know, aside from the usual work and parenting and what have you, we've actually been having not terrible weather over here in the usually grey and overcast U of K. So yeah, we've been outside a lot, in the garden, down the park, just taking advantage of the roughly week's worth of summer that we get here usually. Taking the time to do a couple of projects around the house and gaming as much as is possible for a nearly 40-year-old dad. As for what I've been playing, this is going to get old really soon, but I'm still plugging my way through Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah.
Which I've actually decided to knuckle down, dedicate all of my time to, and get through, because I really want that game off my plate. I've been playing Baldur's Gate 2 on the Nintendo Switch as part of the enhanced collection or whatever it was, which again is really fun but really dense. And I've just started up Ring of Fates Final Fantasy Ring of Fates on the Nintendo DS. So 3 really quite long games all at once, which is not something I usually do.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Those are very involved games. 3 very involved games that you've got going on there. How does
I know, right? Coming off of the back of something nice and light and stress-free as Castlevania Rondo of Blood.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, okay. You said you were playing Baldur's Gate 2 on the Switch. How's that run on there? Pretty good?
Yeah, I've had no problems with it. I mean, there's the occasional slowdown, and I never played them back in the day, so it's been a steep learning curve to get all of them again. I guess it was originally a PC game,
yes,
and it shows.
Yeah, I definitely played it on the PC.
Yeah, I can imagine sort of a mouse point and click sort of interface would really be better. But I think they do a good job with this. I've been enjoying it anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've tried to look for that game for part of my physical Switch collection, and it suddenly, once Baldur's Gate 3 came out, the two Baldur's Gate 2 cartridge for Switch jumped up to like $150, which is much more than I want to pay for an old port.
So, no, that's absolutely fair. No, I think I got it for Christmas a few years back.
Took a pass on that. Well, that's good. Yeah, that's the way to go.
So I paid approximately nothing.
Oh yeah, and speaking of, what was it, Crystal Chronicles or Crystal Ring of Fates of Crystals?
Yeah, I think it's
Final
the prequel
Fantasy.
to Crystal Chronicles. Yeah, so you could call it that.
And we discovered that I have this in my DS collection, so that might be getting an episode at some point. So stay tuned, everyone. That would be a fun one.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I'd be down for that.
Cool. What have I been playing? I think you asked. A lot of this, Castlevania Rondo of Blood. I usually would play this for maybe 20, 30 minutes at a sitting tops, but not much longer than that because it gets very frustrating. You just end up beating your head against the wall.
God, yeah.
Also, a Final Fantasy VII Remake I've gone back to.
Good. Yeah.
You know what though? I can't say that I'm really enjoying it. I don't dig the style.
I enjoyed it, but it's the original is always going to be my jam.
I just got through the Wall Market section, and it was while you're waiting. Not that there's spoilers in here, but while you're waiting for Aerith to get her dress and her makeover and stuff.
Yeah.
That little like running back and forth. I wouldn't call it a fetch quest because you didn't really even get anything out of it. It's just like running back and forth to talk to different people while that dude follows you is one of the worst pieces of shit quests I've ever played in a modern game. And part of the reason why I don't like a lot of modern games that take you through this shit that you have to like sit and watch or listen to.
That's a fair argument. I mean, I adored the game. I thought it was fantastic, but I will admit that there was a fair amount of padding.
Yes, that's one of them.
I haven't actually played Rebirth yet.
Yeah,
and I hear that's one of sort of the main complaints.
Oh, great! more of that.
Well, I could be
wrong.
wrong.
The way. Yeah, although I do enjoy seeing the environments and the the characters and stuff rendered and better graphics, but.
Totally.
Yeah, and seeing Cloud dance and getting to do like the QuickTime event to make him dance was kind of worth it.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those are my two kind of my main games right now. Though I think I'm toast on Rondo of Blood. I'll keep pressing on with Remake, and then I got some other stuff in the pipeline for the show. So, that's about the long and short of it. It's been a couple of busy weeks in a row, so I haven't really had that much gaming time. But yeah, should we get into this game? I'm like chomping at the bit to talk about this game. I was writing up the notes yesterday, and getting really, really excited to talk about it. So we're gonna play. I think we've got an interlude here, a gentleman's interlude, and I think did we discuss that Brian is potentially reading this one since he's sitting out here?
Yes, absolutely. Before his untimely disappearance, I do believe that Brian has provided us. We couldn't think of a name of it, so I don't know. We'll just call it the Canadian Pitter Patter. Let's get at her.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, that's what we'll call it. So here, we'll listen to the Canadian Pitter Patter, Let's Get At Her, and maybe a musical interlude or something, and then we'll come back and talk about the game.
Hello there. Today we journey back to Castlevania's mystical and supernatural world of Rondo of Blood. This iconic game, a jewel in the crown of Konami, was first unveiled to the world on October 29, 1993. This was when the gaming industry took its first steps into the CD-ROM era. Rondo of Blood was a trailblazer released exclusively for the PC Engine's Super CD-ROM system in Japan. Its innovative use of the CD-ROM format allowed for enhanced graphics, richer audio, and more complex gameplay, setting a new standard for video games of its time. The creation of Rondo of Blood was the brainchild of a talented team at Konami. Under Toru Hagihara's direction and Yoshiaki Yamada's production, the game was brought to life. The characters in the world were vividly illustrated by artists Toshiharu Furukawa, Rieke Bando, and Koji Yamada, whose combined artistic visions created an immersive gothic atmosphere that captivated players. The haunting melodies that set the tone for the game are composed by Akira Soji, Kaizo Nakamura, Tomoko Sano, and Makio Sato, whose work on the soundtrack remained one of the most memorable aspects of the game. At the heart of the game is our hero, Richter Belmont, a vampire hunter armed with a whip and an unwavering resolve. His mission is to rescue his beloved Annette, who was kidnapped by the infamous Dracula. As Richter explores the castles, he can rescue 4 maidens, one of whom is his distant relative, Maria Renard. Once rescued, Maria becomes a playable character, bringing her unique fighting style to the game. She attacks enemies with her doves and an array of sub-weapons, providing a fresh gameplay experience and adding depth to the game's mechanics. Rondo of Blood is a testament to the evolution of the Castlevania series. It beautifully blends elements from earlier games which feature linear gameplay and a Belmont as a protagonist, with the innovations that would influence later entries emphasizing untimed exploration. The game introduced the item crash ability, a powerful attack that Richter could unleash on his enemies, adding a strategic layer to the combat. Players guide Richter through 9 meticulously designed stages, each with unique challenges and enemies. Additionally, the game features 4 alternate routes, providing replayability and a sense of discovery, culminating in an epic confrontation with Dracula himself. The legacy of Rondo of Blood extends beyond its initial release. In 1995, it was reimagined for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System as Castlevania Dracula X. In 2007, it was remade for the PlayStation Portable as Castlevania The Dracula X Chronicles, including the original game and a 3D remake. The original game also found new audiences when it was released for the Wii Virtual Console service in 2008 in Japan, and in 2010 for North America and PAL regions. In 2018, Rondo of Blood and its critically acclaimed sequel, Symphony of the Night, were released as part of the Requiem collection. Castlevania Rondo of Blood is more than just a game. It's a piece of gaming history, a milestone in the evolution of the Castlevania series, and a testament to the creativity and innovation of its developers. Its legacy continues to influence the gaming industry, inspiring new generations of game designers and captivating players worldwide. The story of Richter Belmont's battle against Dracula remains as enthralling today as it was over 2 decades ago, cementing Rondo of Blood as a timeless classic.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Pitter patter. Let's get at her. So, we have, before we get started talking about the game in earnest, we like to give our Discord members a chance to throw in some comments here, and we did have one. So I don't know if you want to do the honors on this one too. It doesn't have anything to do with socks, but Alan, if you want to take this one, go for it.
Yep, I can take this one. I would like to point out that I have actually got the Discord up at the moment, and we've got another one that snuck in under the wire.
We get
so
one?
I don't know
Okay.
if you...
Yeah. Why don't you read the first one, or do you have a preference?
I'll go ahead and read the. I've got the second one in front of me, so I'll just say,
okay.
Go ahead and give McG his love.
Everyone will appreciate it because the second one's a longer comment, so they'll get to hear you read it. And that'll make everyone happy. So, first comment comes from McG, who says, "Did Sylvester Stallone play Rambo in this one as well? Oh, Rondo, please proceed." So, no, not Rambo of Blood. It's
I mean, that would have been an entirely different game,
right? Well, isn't there a
that.
Rambo movie that's like First Blood? So there's like blood and Rambo and
there is blood. I'm
Rondo
gonna throw myself in front of the bus here and just say I've never actually watched a Rambo film.
Oh, don't worry about it. They're maybe a hot take. they're mediocre at best. But if you want to see someone get shot with an arrow and then explode, it's pretty fun. They're pretty fun.
Oh, it sounds dumb. I like it.
Yeah. All right, go ahead with your with the comment that snuck in.
So I've got one here from Zodiac who says, I don't get the praise for this game. It's almost wild to me how often you hear that this is the best 16-bit Vania, but I feel like it has too many shortcomings to overcome Bloodlines. Yes, there are multiple characters, hidden secrets and branching paths, and no conversation on this game can happen without mentioning its brilliant soundtrack and gorgeous visuals. But the game's biggest selling point, its hidden levels, can usually be found doing something that would normally kill you, or there is little context or information on required steps on opening a path. It's incredibly unintuitive. Combine that with stiff controls that feel like a step back from previous entries, and Rondo, while still a good game, feels like a title lifted up more due to its mystery and mythos rather than hands-on experience. I've got thoughts about that, and yeah, I mean, I've got to give him props for mentioning Bloodlines, because that game is absolutely fantastic and will be coming up in my own personal playthrough soon. I kind of agree with the hidden levels thing. Sorry?
Oh no, we'll give Bloodlines some time on this show too.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, whenever, maybe not right away. I might have to take a break and ice my Castlevania muscles because they're a little sore.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I do agree about the hidden levels, because I was very surprised. I mean, we'll get into it, obviously, but I don't disagree.
Yeah, this game has a lot of secrets in it, but it can be pretty precious with the secrets that actually mean something, where like I'll find something and get real excited about it, and then it's like, oh, well, it's just kind of an alternate way of getting to the same place, where the secrets that actually get you to the alternate versions of the stages, or get you to the rescuable, characters or whatever, are hidden in ways that I think are maybe like Zodiac said, not intuitive necessarily. So I found some things by accidentally falling where I would have just normally died.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then there's even we can get into it when we get into the show. I feel like I always say that when we're podcasting. We can get into it when we talk later, but let's get into it. I mean, there are points where there are multiple pits, one after another, and falling into certain ones will trigger you to fall down a different path, and some of them you will die. So
and there's no clear distinction about which is which.
No, so it is kind of cryptic, but yeah, let's get into this. Let's talk about this game. This is Castlevania Rondo of Blood, which was developed and published by Konami in 1993 for the PC Engine Super CD-ROM in Japan only. And so, let's just say, happy first PC Engine Super CD-ROM game that we're covering on this show, and probably the last.
I can't think of a single another one.
Yeah, that's just the most description, the most words used to describe a computer system, that it's just computer words barfed out into one.
Yeah.
PC Engine Super CD-ROM.
I think didn't you guys call it the TurboGrafx?
I don't know, because this was not released here, so maybe it's the TurboGrafx, but I don't even think we got it on the TurboGrafx. That was something different, I think, but I could be wrong. I'm not an expert on, late 80s, early 90s weird computers, but
that's fair.
There were some alternate releases, so there were some either alternate releases or re-releases that brought it over to the United States and around the world, in the UK and Australia and everywhere else. We got Castlevania Dracula X for the Super Nintendo in 1995, which is kind of a port, I guess, but it's more of just an action platformer based on it's very linear and based on the kind of the primary progression of levels in Rondo of Blood. So it's like a Rondo of Blood Junior, only hard, and you can't save. And I think it kind of sucks.
Okay.
Our original plan was to cover Castlevania Dracula X, and we ended up, I realized that it was kind of a quote-unquote port of Rondo of Blood, and I said, I've played that, and it was good, so let's play that one instead.
Okay.
And then there was Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles, which was released on the PSP in 2007, and it had the original game kind of embedded in as an extra feature, and it also had a kind of a 2.5D remake of the time, not a 2.5D like we get the like 2.5D 16-bit pixel remaster, like gorgeous looking games. It was a 2.5D from the mid 2000s, which was like kind of the rounded 3D graphics, but still 2D. So it was a fine game. And then how I played it, and I believe how you played it, was on the Castlevania Requiem collection, which came out. It just has Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night. It's very basic. It doesn't have a lot of extras or goodies on it, but it was released on the PS4 in 2018, and it's a good way to access it if you have a PlayStation.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I rarely buy digital games, and I think it was on sale at the time, and that was just too good an opportunity. And now the third time I think I've bought Symphony of the Night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of an also ran with Rondo of Blood for this collection, I think, because like Symphony of the Night has been available in a lot of different ways, and I mean, if you're a collector, you can grab it. I'm sure it's expensive, but
it is.
Yeah.
I can speak from experience.
Yeah. And then there's obviously you can play it on the PSP too, but Rondo of Blood is really like I think the kind of the belle of the ball in this collection, because it's kind of a rare game that wasn't really available for a long time. All we got after its release was Dracula X on the Super Nintendo, and we didn't get the game proper for over 10 years after it was released. So just kind of a cool little weird title in the series that I'm glad that we get to play, even if it's really, really difficult and makes us crazy sometimes.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And so why did we choose this game? We usually get into this kind of, why this game? Why are we talking about this game? I don't think there are a lot of people that are. So like I said, I think we had originally kind of I was looking for a Castlevania title. And I was like, we should probably cover a Castlevania game, and that would be fun. Originally, I sought out Dracula X because I knew that was a Super Nintendo game. I think it was pretty highly regarded, or maybe I thought it was, but man, I tried it out on the Advanced Collection that came out on the Switch, and I just didn't like it that much. Not that it was tough, so I didn't like it. I think valid criticisms. It's clunkier than this game, and clunkier than I think a Castlevania that came out in 1995 for the Super Nintendo, which had been out for several years, should be. I don't think it should have been as tough to control or clunky as it was. It's very linear, so there's not a lot of exploration like there is in Rondo, and it's just kind of a dumbed down version of Rondo that I think probably was condensed to fit onto a cartridge. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. So I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't enjoying it, and I knew that I had found out that Rondo was part of was part of that package, the Dracula X package. And as I looked into it more, I was like, no, I've played that game. I played it quite extensively in my early 20s, and I think I finished it. I can't tell because I think my PSP is so old that I don't know if I can go that far back, and maybe the save file isn't where it was or whatever. But Man, I was watching some of the playthrough because I didn't finish this game this time around. I got quite far, but I didn't quite finish it. But I do remember some of the bosses, some of the alternate bosses triggered some memories for me, and that Dracula fight at the end. So, have you played this game before firing it up on the PS5?
No, honestly, I haven't. I'm a huge Castlevania fan, and over the years I've been collecting, playing, beating, and I was aware that this game existed, but being a sort of Japanese-only release, I didn't think it would be something that I'd get a chance to play. I wasn't aware that it was available in so many other places.
Yeah.
So it just sort of looked like one of those exotic Japan-only games that I just thought, well, I'm sure it's fun, but I don't know that I'll ever get to play it. So when you suggested and you pointed me in the direction of the Requiem collection, I jumped at the chance because I need very little convincing to play a Castlevania game.
Yeah. So you jumped at the chance so much that you downloaded a digital copy, which I know you have a beautiful game collection. But yeah,
Thank you.
This one is unfortunately digital only if you want to play it on the PlayStation.
Well, that's fine because now that I know about the Dracula X Chronicles on the PSP,
Yes.
I can buy that, and that'll be the fourth time I've bought Symphony of the Night.
Yeah. And I will say, the Dracula X Chronicles on the PSP, I played the absolute fuck out of that game when I was in my early 20s, and it's excellent. I think I played... there's so much to it. There's so much value there. I don't know what it's running these days on the collector's market. I'm sure it's more than it used to be, definitely more than I bought it for back in 2008 or whenever I got it. But yeah, there was a lot of value there. There was the original game of Rondo of Blood. I believe the original Symphony of the Night is tucked in there. And then there's that remake of Rondo of Blood. And it's great. It's just... there's so much in there.
Yeah, so I've just looked it up, and over here anyway, it's about 50, 55, 60 pounds.
I think it's still worth it.
Yeah, not as high as I thought it would be.
Yeah. Like, if you're getting into, like, over the price of a new modern game, then it's like, yeah, maybe, like, you'd have to really want it. But, man, I mean, that's 3 games there that are all great, and it's worth it. It's worth it for the price of a regular modern game. But anyways, let's get into the story.
Let's do it.
Not that there's all that much story involved in a Castlevania. Like, there is, and it's cool because it's Dracula, obviously, and vampire hunters, and that stuff is cool as hell. But you had put in your notes that this is the 10th installment in the Castlevania series, and that's crazy. Do they count like the little like Kid Dracula and all the weird little Game Boy games? And
so this is what I found in my rather brief research, but it has to like include a bunch of rare and obscure Japanese games to make it the 10th.
Yeah, I was because what did we have at this point? And I believe the original Castlevania for the NES came out in 1987. Was there an arcade game too? There might have been.
I think there was.
Okay,
yeah, that
so they must count
very
that as well.
familiar.
So if you count that, and you count that, by this point you probably had, I think you probably had Castlevania 4. I don't know if you had Bloodlines, but yeah, and you throw in some goofy Game Boy games and some Japanese-only stuff, then yeah, it's probably 10. Which is kind of crazy, because then when you get to Dracula X, then X is 10, and that's fun. So,
you know what? I hadn't even thought of that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I made that connection while I was putting all the notes together. I was like, I wonder if that's why. But
so this came out not long after Super Castlevania 4 and just before Castlevania Bloodlines.
Right. Yeah, that's
which
just.
is
I
very
mean,
interesting.
you do some digging and you really find some interesting stuff about these series that we kind of take for granted as like, these are the main games and that's it.
Yeah.
No, there's a bunch of stuff you got to dig. So the player controls Richter Belmont, who is a descendant of Simon, and I think that's pretty cool. How they
Yeah.
different Castlevania games take place in different time periods, and the family of vampire hunters are all kind of descendants of each other, and that. So it takes place in 1792, and what do you know? Dracula is resurrected again, and
How
he
about that?
captures. Well, he doesn't capture, but he sends his. I've been watching What We Do in the Shadows. Is Shaft his familiar?
You know what? I've never thought of it like that before, but yes.
I mean,
I'm gonna say yes, because that's yeah.
he's a sorcerer, so like he's maybe a little bit more powerful than Guillermo, but like Guillermo has some powers himself.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So Annette is captured by Shaft as bait to draw a young Richter Belmont into a trap, which works because he goes after her, because she is his love interest. It's kind of cool because you can locate and rescue. There's Maria Renard, who joins as a playable character, and I think she is a relative of Richter. So she's like this like little cute 10-year-old vampire killer.
Very out of place in this game. I feel.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
It's awesome, but it's just like when I stumbled across her and I didn't know that there were unlockable characters or characters that you had to rescue. So then when I stumbled across this like little girl in the castle, and then suddenly you can play as her, I was just like, what is going on here?
Yeah, and she's awesome.
Very useful.
She's kind of in easy mode, which is funny because you have to go find it, which you might not.
Yeah.
She's not just available there for you to use, but she jumps. She has a double jump. She moves a little quicker, and her attack is a little faster because she kind of repeatedly throws out these little doves. And I don't think it has quite the range of the Vampire Killer Whip, but it definitely is a little bit more rapid fire than the whip.
Yeah, you can definitely spam the attack a bit more.
And I did. But the others that you can rescue are Tara, who is a nun, and Iris, who is the village doctor's daughter, and then there is the aforementioned Annette, who is Richter's love interest.
Yeah.
So yeah,
spoilers. I mean, spoilers for my playthrough anyway. Tara and Iris still in Dracula's castle.
Oh yeah, they are actually in the hidden levels. So like the alternate versions of the levels, you can't. I think Tara is in the graveyard and Iris is somewhere else. I don't know.
I mean, I found Annette, which I feel is kind of the point. So
yeah, one's in the cemetery that was cool. For sure.
It's just the other two. Sorry, girls.
Yeah, they're keeping Brian company.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, nice romantic dinner of wall meat.
Yeah, wall meat, and it's funny because Maria's healing items are like a milkshake and like milkshakes, and I think it's like candy and stuff. And then
oh no way.
And then when you complete a level, the stage clear, instead of like that kind of like Roman-looking text, is like balloons, like balloon letters.
That's so cool. So I did not see that.
Yeah, it's like definitely like a child, which is like just really reinforces the fact that you are using a small child to go into a castle and fight monsters.
That's brilliant. I mean, I got stuck early on against the werewolf, and I thought, well, I'll give her a go. And my Castlevania muscles had not yet come back, so I was just getting my arse handed to me. I couldn't beat it with her, so I just went back to Richter for the rest of the playthrough. But that's so cool.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. But yeah, I only used her for a brief a brief moment, but it was enough to kind of get the feel for how she kind of works.
Nice.
Speaking of that, what did you think of just in general the gameplay and the controls for this game?
I mean, I can hear an argument. People have said it's clunky. To me, it just felt like one of the original Castlevania games. It was very reminiscent of Castlevania 1, 2, and 3. I know they sort of mixed up the gameplay style for things like Bloodlines for Castlevania 4. But I thought this was, control-wise, very much an homage to the original style of NES gameplay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was less frustrating with the knockbacks. I mean, they still happen, but I didn't find them being quite...
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just didn't find them being quite as annoying as before.
Well, plus for a lot of it, when you get knocked back, like if you get knocked back into a pit, a lot of times that's just an alternate way to go through the
exactly.
level.
And that's the only way that I found some of these alternate routes, because I wasn't thinking that I was literally playing the game as a linear Castlevania. So I didn't think, there might be alternate paths or what have you, because it's not how I usually play. So, those are some... It was very much a sort of, for fuck's sake, hang on, no, I'm not dead. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Sort of a moment.
Yeah, there might
so
be
that
some
was cool.
stuff down here,
Yeah, it's just like, hang on, I'm not dead. Brilliant. But yeah, it controls well. Yeah, just the usual left to right whip. It's a solid Castlevania game.
Yeah, whip, throw weird items to kill vampires, and
get
that's
the axe.
what you do.
Always get the axe.
I think the controls are fairly tight, and they are just kind of standard Castlevania platformer controls. Richter's slow. He is very, I guess, like I would describe his movement as stalking, or just like a slow, deliberate walk. Like he's just a big beefcake of a dude, and he can just, he walks slowly and he doesn't have another speed. So that factors into your strategy when you're trying to move around a boss or dodge, which is difficult to say the least, but that does factor into your play style, where you have to account for the fact that Richter only goes one speed and it's slow. They did add some things. The stairs aren't as big of a bitch because you can jump up.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I found that you could jump and press the up, arrow and end up onto the stairs. So instead of having to start from the base of the stairs and slowly climb up and leave yourselves open to attack, you could jump and hit up, and it allowed you to dodge some attacks or get moving a little bit faster up the stairs.
Yeah, big plus point there.
Huge. I don't know when this started because my experience with Castlevania, though I like them, is a little bit more limited. You get that backflip with Richter, which I used sparingly because I figured I didn't master that as a dodge tactic, but I would mostly end up kind of fucking myself over with it somehow. But you jump, and if you hit the jump button again right away, he does a kind of a backflip and skid once he hits the ground. It looks cool.
I didn't even find that accidentally. This is literally the first I'm hearing about it.
Oh yeah, he does the backflip thing. It's actually kind of useful in a couple spots where there's a platform that might be a little bit too high for you to jump on around some kind of secret stuff. And you could face away from it and do his weird backflip thing, and sometimes you could kind of land yourself on a higher platform because it is a slightly higher jump. Pretty cool.
Fucking hell! I got through the entire game and never once found out that there was a backflip. That's ridiculous.
And I watched part of a walkthrough this morning, and I was just like, there is so much to this game that I didn't even find. Which is why, you complete the game if you just go through the levels that kind of are the linear progression, and you get to the title screen, and it shows the percentage that you've completed, and it's 50%. It's where is the rest of this game?
I looked at that percentage. I was like, you know what? It was good enough in school. It's good enough now. I'm happy with my 50%.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I did about half, and I'm good for now.
But that's
Um,
like
yeah,
that's I get testament to its replayability.
yeah, I think so too, for sure. I like, for example, I got stuck on stage 4 for
Oh,
probably a week to 2 weeks. I was stuck. Either I would die at various points of the level, but then as I got better at the level, every time I played it, I either A, got a little bit better, or B, I found something new in the level that I didn't before. And it's a big kind of
yeah,
sprawling level. What I eventually ended up doing was I found, instead of climbing this bullshit staircase where there's those little flea flicker goblin guys riding down the staircase on these giant stone balls that are really hard to jump
yeah,
from. That was where the backflip jump kind of helped, but it was hard to navigate doing this backflip jump and then trying to jump up onto the next boulder. So I was just like, this part fucking sucks. And I think I
yeah,
had accidentally, again, fallen down the pit right at the beginning. And it turns out that the balls, when they fall down the pit at the bottom of the staircase, go down into this thing and then go back up a kind of like a chain pulley system on the back side of the staircase. And so
yeah.
there's like a completely different way to get up the staircase. So yeah, there's some like floating enemies in there that kind of suck, but I found not only that I could just kind of take a ride up the elevator, but there was a free life in there too. And it was very
Yeah.
helpful for the boss in the end of stage 4, who's a
I
complete
think
fucker.
yeah, I think that was one of the few alternate paths I actually found, and
Yes.
yeah, it that extra life was definitely. I think if stage 4 is probably the hardest in the game. I think that's fair because
Yeah.
I got stuck on there for a long time as well. Because even with that alternate path that takes you past all of the boulders and what have you, like you've still got a mess of knights and
Yes.
more flea men and stage 4 is the one with the I can't think of the name of them, but the bone snakes.
Yeah, those stupid
They're just
fucking bone snakes. And
oh, they're just all over the place and impossible to hit, and you just can't get past them without killing them.
yes, they're part of what makes this game so difficult, and I think this goes for pretty much any Castlevania game, at least like the kind of platformer ones, maybe not the Game Boy Advance, PlayStation era, like Metroidvania Castlevanias, but
Mm-hmm.
the enemies tend to, and I think it's just good. I say good, but it makes it difficult. Programming where the enemies are very good at staying just to the edge or outside the range of your vampire killer whip,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and they move pretty randomly, and they really don't always telegraph their attacks. Like that bone
No.
snake really is very random, snaky, and spits fire at different times, and you know, depending on where you're at when it spits the fire, it's gonna get you, and it's gonna get you in a weird spot where it's really hard for you to block it.
Yeah, definitely. But it goes back to what you said about every time that you played, you got a little bit better because you do start to
Yes.
recognize the patterns of attack and you do figure out your own techniques for getting around these enemies simply because you are just battering your head against that wall so many times.
Yes. And you're developing your strategies within that kind of randomness. Like there is a bit of randomness, but you have an approximate feeling for what each enemy is going to do if you faced it enough times. That
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
although sometimes like you feel like you can, oh, no problem, I know what those axe throwing knights are going to do, so I know my tactic, and still like just like a split second, one of those
Yeah.
axes gets behind you and you're pretty fucked.
Yeah, you really have to dial in and sort of watch what's going on. It's like the fucking Medusa heads, which are
Yeah.
probably my least favorite enemy in any Castlevania game. And there's no reason why. They follow a simple pattern
Yeah.
across the screen, but you always miss.
I always
And
miscalculate. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And again, it's not cheap because it's not like they're throwing in, any randomness to that, but it is just, you have to just dial in.
You know what I think makes it so difficult is that they're not telegraphed and they don't all follow the same path. So the Medusa heads will always, I think they come in from whatever way you're facing. So if you change direction when one's about to trigger, it will come in the backside, from the right. If you're facing the left, it'll come in from the left. If you've jumped when they're going to trigger, they come in higher. If you're crouched down when they're triggered, they'll come in lower. So it really adds an element of randomness that it's interesting because it's like it adds an element of randomness and it makes it your fault.
Yeah, definitely. But then again, you can exploit that by triggering them in one place and then being somewhere else.
Right, but it makes it more difficult than they just always follow the same path, because if they always followed the same path, you would be able to get through it by kind of rote memory, by knowing I have to stand here at this time and crouch, then I can move on. It would make it too easy.
Yeah, well, and another problem is that usually you find them in the fucking clock tower and you can't stand still there. There's nowhere to, everything is moving.
Yes. Yeah, which is interesting that you say that you think stage 4 is the hardest when you also completed the clock tower, and that clock tower can go die. I didn't even this time around. I'm pretty sure I know because I did beat this game at some point long time ago, over 10 years ago, but God, almost probably over 15 years ago. Fuck me. But this clock tower, I beat the boss rush. So there is, after stage 5, there's a boss rush, which is really cool. We're all over the place, but whatever. We're just going to chat about this game. We're not necessarily following structure.
It's all out of love.
There comes a point where you get past stage 5, which has a fight with death, which also sucks, and we can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Where it just is a boss rush, and that's all. There's no platforming level or anything. You have to fight the Bat, Medusa, the Mummy, and Frankenstein, which are all the bosses from the original Castlevania, which I thought is very, very cool and a really cool kind of homage to the original game.
Definitely.
And now they are kind of abbreviated versions of those bosses, because you don't have the little flea flicker fucker that's jumping around during the Frankenstein fight.
Yeah.
That guy's an asshole.
The worst. The actual worst. Fuck me.
So luckily they are slightly easier versions of those boss battles.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, like you said, a very, very nice touch. I mean, I didn't actually clock at first that they were the... I'm not a smart man.
Yes, you are.
But I didn't even clock that they were the original Castlevania bosses, minus obviously Death and Dracula himself.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just, and they were tough in the original Castlevania game, and this game says, well, you know what, fuck you can fight them all in one go.
Yeah, they'll be maybe a little bit easier, and the the controls and the items are better in this game, but you are still going to have to do all 4 of them in a row.
Yeah, absolutely.
With very little in the way of being able to recharge. I think after you beat 3, the Mummy drops a small health, not even a big one. So you get maybe a third of your health back. Shaft himself wasn't too bad, but I played this one. So the funny thing is I got stuck. I would beat my head against this one. The best I did was I think I got to Shaft one time right before I gamed over. I could get to the Mummy, and it's funny with these games. It's exactly what you need to do, but the execution can be so difficult sometimes. The Mummy will, do the arm wraps, attack, and that's pretty easy to avoid. You just crouch and whip him, and then he sends these blocks at you that you have to platform over, and then once you're done with that, he sends all of his little wrappings floating around, and there's a way to position yourself on the screen where you can walk right past it, and you should be
Yeah.
fine. But if you don't get that timing down perfectly, again, you are completely fucked. Like the whole screen, the whole half of the screen ends up being like filled with these little wrappings that can hurt you. And I figured the only way that I could do it was by using the Bible special item, because you could throw it and then it would do like that spiral of pages that would kind of take out most of them. But man, that mummy fucked me, man.
Yeah, no, that's and again, it easily identifiable patterns, but very minimal room for error.
Yeah,
so
I would say.
Like you said, you know what you have to do, but actually telling your brain and because you have to not only know what you need to do, but you need to be doing it before you think about it.
Right. Yeah, it's instantaneous. Like as soon as you think of what you need to do, you have to be already doing it, basically.
Because if you don't deal with one attack properly, the next one's going to fuck you. The next one's going to, it just snowballs on you.
Yes.
And they do take a big wet chunk out of your ass. It's brutal.
Yeah. Every time you get hit by a boss, it takes a good fourth of your health meter.
Yeah.
And each of
I
your
always
whips
saved my. Go on.
Yeah. No, I'd say each whip on a boss takes about maybe a 16th.
Yeah. Yeah, you really have to. You can't just go charging in half cocked.
No.
You have to actually take your time. Don't get greedy. Just do some damage, reassess. Do some damage, reassess, and that's why I found I was waiting until I got so far in the boss fight before I used my item crash.
Yes.
Because if you lead the fight with that, then you've got nothing in the pocket.
Yeah, and the item crash is fucking cool, especially the cross one. The cross one is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, every item has but not only its own ability, but the ability to do basically a screen clearing attack.
Yes.
Which drastically reduces your hearts, but can be a real Hail Mary in a sticky situation.
Yeah, if you're running low on health and the bosses too, and it's just like, all right, I got X amount of health or hearts, not health, hearts. Man, just like, yes, crash the screen with crosses or whatever, like just go,
just Jesus, please just. And most of the boss fights I did just get through with the tiniest toenail of health.
Yeah, very, very tough. Here's a bullshit thing. This is I've got this listed under BS moments, is that most of the bosses have like kind of a bit of a rebuttal. Once you beat them and they're dead, they might like turn into a fireball and shoot across the screen or something. And if that kills you, you do not pass go.
Yeah, it's sort of, you've beaten the boss. The fuck you have.
Yeah, I think. Oh gosh, what was the one that? Was it the Minotaur did something? I don't know. I beat one, but I did end up beating one boss, and then whatever its final little death gasp was killed me, and I was just.
I remember you saying yes. It was either the Minotaur there or the fucking dude who threw his head around.
That might have been that one. I was just he throws his head, I think, and that's like the last gasp where it's like floats around and does some shit. But I was just like, you absolute fuck.
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of cheap, but again, it's just like you knew what you were getting yourself in for.
Yeah, once it happens with the first boss, it doesn't happen with every boss, but it's a possibility. No. Like, I would get down, I'd get all their health down, and they would do some sort of thing where they kind of die, and it'd be, I'm getting the fuck away from you because I don't know what you're about to do.
Exactly, and the game itself is telling you that, listen, you haven't got any time to rest.
No. Which is why
pay attention.
You always have to be on your toes, which is why I think this game was best in 20 to 30 minute chunks. You're not going to sit there and play it for, unless you really, really enjoy it, or you really enjoy this type of game, or it just clicks with you. I still like it, but I'm not going to sit and play it for more than 20 or 30 minutes at a sitting.
That's fair.
Yeah.
You gotta keep an eye on the old blood pressure.
It's best sipped, I think.
Yeah, I can get on board with that.
What else? What have we left out? I mean, we got to talk about the music. You can't talk about a Castlevania game without mentioning the music.
That's because the music is always fucking awesome.
It's just, I'd have to say, like, I always go back and forth depending on what I've played or listened to most recently, but like between the Final Fantasies, the Castlevanias, and the Mega Mans, those are probably my top three, and they are consistently jostling for the number one position for me. But I think right now, like, Castlevania is probably my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, I think, in the conversation of like the greatest video game soundtracks, and with good reason. I mean, they're just beautiful, effective, eerie, atmospheric. It just it works for every single level, and it really sets the tone.
You can find this particular soundtrack, I think, is on Spotify, so you can listen to the actual music as it was presented on the PC Engine, or it's been ported now, but but sometimes, like, do yourself a favor and go listen to like Bloody Tears by the Castlevania sound team, where it's like a full like ass rock band, and it's fucking awesome.
Bloody Tears always slaps. And Vampire Killer. I did make note of a few extras because this game was this goes more into sound effects than music, but this game was fucking voice acted with actual voice actors, and it wasn't terrible.
And there's cutscenes, which are really cool too. Like, holy fuck! I mean, granted, this was running on a PC, so it probably had a little bit more under the hood than your home console. But shit, if they weren't good, like anime cutscenes with voice acting, and that allowed for the Requiem theme, which is the choral theme that plays in the menus, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, being a game on CD probably really helped.
Oh yeah.
Like, them pack more in. So we're not just talking about chip tunes or what have you. I mean, they could afford to have some actual instruments in there.
Hell yeah. I did like
it. Shows.
I really liked. Here are a couple other call outs. The song is called "Blood Relations of Heaven and Earth," and that's from stage 1, where everything is on fire, and that is just like a funky jam. It is so good. Hopefully we'll have time to put together a little bit of a mix of some of the tunes.
That would be awesome.
Necessary for a Castlevania game.
The people deserve to hear this.
Yes. I also really enjoyed, it's called Former Room, which I don't really understand why, but it's that kind of creepy haunted house song that plays before a boss fight. And then the
yep. Well, it's the room before, it's the room former to the boss fight.
Oh yeah, I guess that's kind of a proper usage. Leave it to you to call out like the proper usage of the term former as something meaning like something before, and not just in the sense of in time, but before something else.
There you go.
Oh man, that's why you're a beaut, man.
I live to serve, dear boy.
And then the boss theme itself it's okay, but the title of it is Wild Dance in Phantasmic Hell, which is just such a fucking cool title.
Yeah. And pretty much exactly what you're doing at the time.
Yes, it is just
a perfect description.
It is a hell.
And you are dancing wildly to not get killed.
Yes. Another call out I had on the specifically the PS4, PS5 version, if you're playing this, the sound effects for like item pickups and when Richter dies come out of your controller.
Yes.
did you have that too? It was so cool.
I did, and I had my wife come upstairs and just say, "What the fuck is going on up here?"
Oh, did you have
Because it
like
was,
I could just see
well, at
this.
least in the early going, I was dying every like 5 minutes, and
Yeah.
actually that's probably generous. Every 2 minutes, and yeah, you just have all these sounds and bleeps and bloops coming out of the PS5 controller. And this is the game that taught me that I can actually turn that controller down.
Yes.
Because I went
Yeah.
looking, because I play when all the house is asleep and what have you, and it's just that a nice feature. Don't get me wrong, but genuinely scared the shit out of me the first time it happened.
Yeah, because Richter, when he dies, it's like, "Gah!" and it's like coming out of your controller, and it's pretty fucking loud.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That was a nice touch, like something they didn't
Yeah.
have to do, but fully takes advantage of the modern hardware they were porting it to, and I thought it was
Yeah.
really awesome. So I'm really looking forward to playing Symphony of the Night on the PlayStation, and hopefully they do the same thing with the controller.
Oh
'Cause
God,
it was so
yeah.
much fun.
I mean, I will have to play Symphony of the Night soon.
Yeah. Play it this way so that maybe you get that little extra jazz out of your controller.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Graphics wise, we talked about it a little bit so far, but I just think it's so good looking. Maybe the argument can be said as like Zodiac mentioned up top in our comments that he doesn't think this is the best 16-bit Castlevania game. Gameplay wise, he thinks that maybe goes to Bloodlines, and there's an argument for that, but I think that this is probably the best looking as far as the 16-bit graphical style, because again, the computer had a little bit more, probably a little bit more firepower under the hood that it could render the graphics. It can render cutscenes, in addition to the excellent voice acting and music and sound effects. It also looked excellent.
I think it definitely uses, again, that disc format to pack as much as possible into the game. And it does look genuinely gorgeous. I mean, it definitely stands up there with the best of Castlevania. But then going back to the point of... Because I sort of look at Castlevania games as being almost three different entities. So you've got your original straight-up platformer NES games. You've got that sort of weird bit in the middle where it was sort of your Bloodlines and your Super Castlevania 4 were sort of a different animal in the way that they were put together. So somewhere between, again, the what it was and what it would become. And then, of course, going from the sequel to this, Symphony of the Night, we just get pure Metroidvanias. So I feel like this game here is probably the best, not only sort of in gameplay, sound, but visual as well, the best almost remake of the original Castlevania games.
Yeah.
So you've got Dracula's Castle, basically almost like for like from the first game, looking absolutely gorgeous. You spoke about the town that was on fire. I'm pretty sure that was one of the towns that was in Castlevania 2.
Yeah.
I might be wrong.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
And then, of course, all Dracula's Castle again from Castlevania 3. But it's basically, I see this as the epitome of that original trilogy of Castlevania games. That it is that style of Castlevania taken to the absolute extreme, and it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, like a remastered greatest hits of like the previous games.
That
like
is basically exactly what I just took 5 minutes to try and say. Nailed it. Absolutely.
Here's something really cool that watch a playthrough. Even if you do want to play the game, also watch a playthrough, because you'll miss stuff that graphically is going on in the background. Like the parallax scrolling out the windows looks great. There's a point where in the clock tower, once you get up the clock tower, and you're kind of moving through the castle rooms to get up to Dracula, and that part in itself is really cool. But there's a spot where you walk by 3 mirrors, and you can see Richter parallax scrolling from like mirror image of himself through the mirrors. On the, like obviously they're on the other side of the screen, so they're in the background, but you can see Richter parallax scrolling across these mirrors as you're walking past them. And the third one, it's a skeleton.
Yeah.
As his reflection. I was just like, oh my God.
I was just like, is that going to jump out? Am I going to have to fight that? I mean, what's the But no, it's literally just the game just getting inside your head.
Yeah, and doing something fucking cool. Like, holy shit.
Absolutely.
Just such an awesome touch. Like, what a well-made game. Just, obviously
100%.
very tough, but you said you didn't get to any of the, I will call them, so we mentioned that there are alternate levels. So there are 4 of them. So stage 2, 3, 4, and 5 have alternate levels or alternate versions, and some of them have alternate bosses. So there are, if you just play through and go linear and just go, through the progression of the game, you'll obviously fight the bosses. You'll beat the game. You might find Maria. You'll probably find Annette. You'll kill Dracula. That's fine, and you'll have completed maybe 55% of the game.
Yeah,
and you'll be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, where's the rest?
So there are, we'll call them prime levels. So there's like stage 2 and then stage 2 prime, which is the alternate version. There's the entrance to Castlevania, and the prime version of stage 2 is the Lake Bridge. Did you find the Lake Bridge?
I did not, as far as I can remember.
Okay, I did.
So if any of these lead to alternate bosses, then I'm almost certain I didn't find them.
Okay, I think you have to go in order to activate the alternate progression. It's kind of like in Star Fox 64. Like, you have to, save Falco in order to open up that alternate path and kind of start yourself along the alternate route. It's much the same. In stage 2, you have to kind of fall down this hole, and there's like a secret wall that you have to break down and then fall down, which again is counterintuitive. But you fall down there, and then you end up in like kind of this pit, and then you exit, and you're in this bridge, kind of under the castle entrance. And there is, it's like, they just call it the Wyvern, but it's like or is it Wyvern? I think Wyvern is maybe how you say that. It's like Wyvern. Kind of like a dragon serpent type thing.
Oh yeah, I've always either a wyvern or a wyvern. I don't know. I've only ever seen it written down.
Yeah, whatever. It's like a lizard, snake, sea serpent type thing, and it is an absolute fucker. I couldn't beat it this time. I know I've beaten it before because I've seen some of the other levels when I was playing it, years and years ago. But you beat the sea serpent, and then you enter like the rest of the Lake Bridge level, and then there's another weird secret. Otherwise, like, I think if you just complete the Lake Bridge, then you end up in the chapel like normal. But if you drop down in a certain spot, then you end up in stage 3 prime, which is the cemetery, and I think that's where you rescue one of the ladies.
Are these? So, say for example, the cemetery. Can you access that from the chapel if you say you didn't get to the Lake Bridge? So you have to do it like it's a whole different path.
Yeah,
you have to do in sequence.
And from what I could tell, there was a very specific progression of things that you needed to do to make sure you stayed along the alternate path, or else it would kind of revert you back to the normal path.
So you're basically on Castlevania Star Road.
Kind of. I mean, these levels were fucking tough looking. Like, so stage 2, the entrance to Castlevania, as you're walking up, Brian did eventually get in the castle, and that's why he's stuck there. But he really wasn't a fan of those fucking birds.
Which is fair.
If you don't like birds and like weird floaty shit, getting all up in your business or jumping and being generally unreachable, you're not going to like these levels.
No.
I was watching the playthrough, and the person who did the playthrough used Maria Renard because she could do the double jump and is generally quicker. Like, I don't know how I might have used Maria when I played through some of these, but like, man, Richter would have a real tough time in some of these levels with like bats flying in from everywhere and birds hovering around being dicks. And there was at one point where there's just bullfrogs jumping around, and they're very low profile, so you can't hit them while you're standing up, and they just jump at you and just shit.
So basically, well, yeah, if all the fun that you had just playing, call it the vanilla game, just like, well, I mean, if you want it to be a bit harder, and I don't know why you would, but here, I'll try some of this bullshit.
Right, yeah. There's other harder levels in here if you can find them, and good luck, because they're really tough. There was one point where I think you're on like maybe a board or a raft or something going down kind of a river, so it's like maybe like, let's call it like a 45-degree platform that you're like you're floating down, and there's shit coming at you, like birds coming at you from the right, and then from the left you'll get like a raft come up behind you with one of those little skeleton guys that chucks a bone at you or whatever, so you're having to like fend it off both sides, and then all of a sudden the thing just ends and you have to know where to jump, or else I'm sure like you just fall down in the pit. So like as it gets to the end, you have like less than a split second to make sure that you jump. And then there's an enemy there too. So if you get
a very Castlevania sequence of events, isn't it? Yeah. So there's essentially a whole other game in here that I've not played.
Oh hell yeah. Yeah, and there's different bosses and
they didn't
everything.
need to go so hard with this, but it's really cool that they did.
Yeah. Man, we've been going for a bit. So before we wrap this up, is there anything that you think we missed? And then I have maybe one more question.
Well, I missed half the game apparently.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we've sort of just been gushing about this gorgeous game all over the place, and I mean, yeah, it's hard. I loved the look of the bosses. I know. You know what? No, I can't think of anything that we've missed. I think we've done a fantastic job.
Yeah, I was just gonna shout out. I didn't get to it, but I think eventually I would have. There is a bridge. And this is maybe a bullshit frustration moment for me, because I beat the boss rush and then got to what is essentially the clock tower level. But before you get to the clock tower, the entire game basically goes left to right. And in the clock tower, it says you're going to cross this bridge from right to left. So you're going to go the opposite way you're accustomed to going through this whole game. And there's bats chasing you, and the bridge is collapsing. And the bats don't die. These are bigger bats, and they don't die with one chain whip. They take 2 hits at least, I think. And there's some that are just like parked, blocking your path that you would, I guess, have to jump over or try to get hits in on. And then there's ones that follow you and are moving faster than you and catch up to. It's like, I just was like, what the actual fuck?
Everything that can go wrong will go wrong here.
Oh, absolutely. And then, of course, they entice you with those little lamps that are just floating. It's like, there's items here if you want them.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think the last one is actually one of the crucifixes as well.
Yes.
That will clear the screen if you can get to it.
That's helpful, and I guess it's at a point where I don't think that the bridge is collapsing anymore, because it does give you like a little bit of runway before you get to the door. But it's like, holy fuck. Like that game there, that level just goes hard immediately. And I got to the point where I was playing it, I was looking at it, it was just like, why is there a bat that's just carrying a whole ass sword by its little feet? And it's like the only purpose is to make it basically a wall chasing you.
Absolutely. Because fuck you, Sam. That's why.
That's basically it. But the playthrough I was watching, whoever was playing was pretty decent at jumping and flipping Richter back and hitting the whip. Still, like, I don't know how you get past this without getting hit. So he got hit a few times, but like, man, like between the shit that's just parked waiting to, set a pick and run in front of you, and the stuff that's chasing you from behind, I don't know. Or like you hesitate for a second and you get knocked back and you die. You fall, to a part of the bridge that's collapsed. Just that's where my playthrough ended.
I was very good at taking 30 or so attempts to get past that. That was my skill. There wasn't any particular technique to it. It was just keep going and hope you get lucky and hope you get through it with enough health to actually get any further.
Right. And then you get into the clock tower, and it's not like the clock tower is a walk in the park. So if you game over in the clock tower, you're crossing that fucking bridge again.
Exactly. And then your reward for all of this, you get to fight Shaft again.
Yeah, Ghost Shaft, which is like way harder than the first one.
I don't know. I mean, he's got a far more recognizable pattern as long as you can dodge the random animals that he summons in. I actually found him... And maybe it's because I'd spent so long fighting him the first time round that this time I was just like, well, okay, yeah, come at me.
Was he... Okay, so yeah, just to go back to Shaft really quick, the first one, he basically teleports from side to side on the screen, and he's got these like two like kind of large orbs that are floating around the screen, and then voice acted, which is cool. He'll say like, Shaft of Fire or Shaft of Lightning or whatever, and like those orbs will activate and either turn into giant fireballs or lightning will strike from them or whatever. You obviously beat him with Richter. Was he too fast for Richter to easily land hits on? Was that kind of the problem?
Boss rush.
Yeah, when he's like teleporting like front to back, I could see it being very difficult.
Yeah, you really sort of had to preempt him, so sort of get a strike in and then immediately start to move. Even before he started to move, and you had to immediately be on the sort of reverse turn to go to where you think he's going to be. So you really had to get into the pattern there.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would be kind of difficult because he moves faster than Richter, obviously, because Richter just is
absolutely.
Like, something teleported behind me, I'm just going to walk over there.
And bear in mind as well, as you say, you're dodging the spheres and the lightning and everything else as well, so it's not like you can just concentrate on what Shaft is doing.
Yeah, not at all. Although I did notice that if you whipped the sphere when it turned into fire, it would at least back up. So you could give yourself some room that way. But I beat it with Maria in one try, the boss rush, after trying several times with Richter to beat it. So that just goes to show how much easier the game can be if you use Maria. She was much faster, so her reaction to where Shaft was going to be was much better, and I was already just like throwing all kinds of birds in his direction.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really all I got, I guess. I'm spent on this.
I mean, I'm sure we could go on for another hour if we really wanted to, but
yeah,
I think everyone gets that we have opinions about this game.
Yeah, I'd definitely give it another shot, although I don't know. I was much better at it before, and I was not as good at it this time. So maybe by the law of diminishing returns, I will be even worse at it next time. So maybe my ship has sailed for being decent at this game.
Don't give up, Sam. Somebody's got to go in for Brian.
Yeah, that's true. We do have to go rescue him before next week. So
yeah,
we're gonna need him. Let's give this a rating out of 10, and I'm gonna let you go first. I didn't put my rating in here on purpose because I wanted to see what you would say, but I've got mine kind of locked in.
I was kind of also just talking it through so that by the end of the conversation, I think this is an incredible Castlevania game. It deserves all of the praise that is heaped upon it. It's difficult, obviously, but that's just par for the course. That's what you get in for when you play a Castlevania game, and I think this is a top example of the entire collection. It's not a Metroidvania, which I do prefer the Metroidvania Castlevanias. So I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Interesting. Okay.
It loses sort of a point and a half, not because there's anything wrong with the game, not because it's difficult or any of that, but purely because, if we talk about Symphony of the Night or anything like that, I need some room above it.
That's true. Yeah. Interesting, because I didn't write it down, but that's kind of where I landed as well. I'd give this game an 8.5. It is difficult as fuck. But yeah, again, there are Castlevania games that mixed up the formula even more, kind of developed out more of that, what became known as the Metroidvania style. And I think this is kind of a stepping stone on its way. And I think it's kind of a culmination of prior Castlevania games up to this point, and it adds elements that weren't there before that make it really kind of unique. And it's too bad that it's not more available than it currently is. I guess Sony or PlayStation must have just kind of a lock on not only this game, but Symphony of the Night, because the only way that you're able to play this is either you are lucky enough to have a PSP or access to a PSP and a copy of this game, or I'm sure you can emulate it somehow, but legitimately the only way to really get it is on the PSN. Luckily, it's usually pretty cheap, but it should just be more readily available, I think. It's a really interesting and unique game, and it's fun in small doses. I can't play it more because I think it requires just that razor focus over an extended period of time, and I get burnt out on it, but not because I don't like it, which is kind of a weird thing to say. It's like a spicy food.
Yeah.
It's like you like spicy food, but you don't want to just like eat a bunch of spicy food really fast.
No, and it's not like you don't want to have spicy food every day.
Right. Or like you want to have a cigar, but you don't want to necessarily like smoke it really quick. It's little puffs on this game, or little sips.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I think it's a perfect send off to the old school style of Castlevania before they transitioned into what we now know as the Metroidvania style.
Yeah. Do we want to do the tier list also? If you're new to the show, we do a tier list. So we will rank S tier is the highest and requires a unanimous decision by both hosts, all the way down from then A to F. And the F tier also requires a unanimous decision from both hosts. So A or S, A through F are our tiers. What do you think, Alan?
I am going to give it a very, very, very high A. I don't think I can give it an S, but it's definitely on the upper scale of an A.
Really? Okay.
I was again, and it's only because there are Castlevania games that I love that much more,
and you would put those ones in the S tier.
Well, no spoilers, but maybe
there's only a little bit of room up above this very high A tier.
Well, exactly. What about yourself, Sam? What do you think?
I'd say still very high, but I was more in the kind of B tier range.
Okay.
But still very high, like high B tier. So I don't know.
So what happens now? Do we average or what have you, or do we just...
I think the average is, in that case, is still an A. It's just not as high of an A.
Yeah.
And Brian's probably sitting in the castle like, what the fuck? This is not an A tier game.
Oh, no. Brian, I'm channeling the spirit of Brian, Vampire Brian right now. And no, he wants to give it an A. Definitely.
Okay. Sounds good.
Oh, he's going to kill me.
Well, we could always leave him in the castle.
Well,
This is
as
how
you
we
say,
usurp.
I suppose, but like you said, you are going to need him back for next week. And speaking of, what have you got coming up for next week?
Oh, god damn, was that a good segue. Next week, I have to kind of look it up because I probably should have thrown it in here. Let me real quick. Checks notes. Tries to find window. I love how you gave me this like silver platter awesome fucking transition, and I still found a way to botch it.
You're doing fine. It's okay. Don't worry.
I think it's a 5x5, and I think it's our peripheral one, but I'm gonna confirm that. Yes, 5x5 worst peripherals, and maybe we can do a 5x5 of the worst transitions that I've ever had, or the things that I've ruined.
I don't think there's 5 of those.
No, there's got to be more than 5. There's so much to choose from. I don't know how you'd have a problem picking just 5. I think is the that's how
that sounds like a good time. Worst peripherals.
Worst peripherals. So that one's done and been recorded. That will be episode number 34, and then following that, because I think we do mention it. But after that, if you're following along, we are playing Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. That will be episode number 35.
Ooh. I still need to play that.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I got the Switch version, or the recent remaster or what have you. So I'm excited to play that.
I definitely need to pick it up, but maybe I'll wait to hear what you two think about it first.
Awesome. Well, anything else you want to say, or anything else you want to plug before we sign off?
No, I'm all good. I think, as you say, we're spent. It's pretty late over here in the U of K. So,
yep.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on. It's
awesome
always a
time.
pleasure.
Oh, anytime, buddy. Anytime.
All right. Yep. And I guess stick a stake in my heart. I am done. So until next time, have a great week, everyone, and we'll talk to you next time.